This is my first Facebook Live, which is going to be sweet. We're going to do these from here on out, hopefully on a weekly basis. And so if you have questions, the format of these videos is pretty much going to be throw a comment or question into the comment section. I'll cover it, answer it, go over any specific details that you want me to cover, and then I'm just going to teach and pretty much answer as many questions as I possibly can throughout the duration of this live, which I'm super excited about because hopefully I can provide as much free value as possible. What's up, Talon? Thanks for throwing in a comment. Hopefully this is working, which I'm pumped about. And so if you are on the live right now, shoot a comment in the comment section so I know you're here. Tell me how long you've been an agent, if you are an agent, and what market you're in. And while we do that, we'll see if anybody else hops on. I'm sure people will hop on throughout the call, but we're just going to dive into it. So let me know where you're at and how long you've been an agent, if you are an agent, and we'll go from there. All right, cool. Okay, well, let's get started. I want to talk about door knocking today. Obviously, this is my bread and butter. Door knocking, love everything about it. It's what changed my business. It is what has brought me the most business, and I'm super excited to chat about it today. It looks like we have Lauren joining us. Hopefully I say this right, Jaquim. It looks like 6-month Central Wisconsin. Started door knocking a few months ago. Awesome. 1.5 years in Boulder, Colorado. Nice. I grew up outside of Boulder in Superior, Colorado. So that's same backyard. I'm sure we share some of the same people. So anyways, super excited to have you guys on the call. Super excited to go over your questions. This is, like I said, a live stream, and so if you have questions that you want asked during the duration of this live stream, start asking them in the comments, and I'm pretty much just going to go down the line and answer as many of them as I possibly can. And then if in the future, I hope to actually make these interactive where I can bring you on, actually make this a more live call where I can actually communicate with you, talk with you live, and go from there. So Jakeem, okay. Apologize for pronouncing it improperly. Talon, been licensed since May of 2020 in Arkansas. Sweet. Okay, cool. Well, let's before I kind of jump into it on what I wanted to cover today, do you have any current questions that you want me to cover that I can start with to kick off this live stream? If you do, throw them in the comments and I'll answer those, and then I'm sure more will come up as I get into it. I also am give me some grace on this because this is my first one, so I'm sure there'll be some kinks and lag and stuff, and so if I have to wait for your responses for a second, forgive me, but we'll figure it out as we go. My man Eric's on, that's what I'm talking about. Have you ever systemized your scripting to get people to look at homes when you're door knocking? Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. A lot of the times when I'm knocking doors, the purpose of knocking the door is to convert a buyer first. Because if you get them to buy or interested in buying, the listing then becomes automatic, pretty much, where if you're out looking at homes, you get them interested in one, kind of the shiny object syndrome where you pretty much convert them into a buyer, and if they find the right house, they're automatically then a seller. So a lot of the times when I am talking to somebody at the door, I'm actually asking them to either hop on the multiple listing service, Zillow, if you have an IDX website where you specifically can send them to, it's your personal website. That is the best way to do it because they can then start looking at homes, send you what they are interested in, and then hopefully set up showings from there. And if you have a buyer that you pull from door knocking, it is almost guaranteed that you'll get a listing after the fact, because if they find a perfect home, they're going to want to move in and go from there. So to answer your question, my system would be getting them to the point where they're open to having the conversation about selling, what home they would want to get into next, and then having them start looking at homes that they therefore would be interested in, and having them try to get into those homes to start looking at them. And we can dive into that in a little bit as well. Curious about your systems and automations that you have set up. Honestly, up until, I'll say for the first year and a half, I did not have anything. I didn't know any systems, didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. was never taught any systems of really how to keep track of leads. It was more just like guns a-blazing, talk to as many people as possible. And so since then, I've set up systems for follow-up, and I don't necessarily have any automations, which I should. It would make my life way easier, and I'm sure it'd be way more successful. But I can also go into our follow-up system, or at least my follow-up system as well. It's pretty simple. It's pretty much just re-knocking the door 4 times a year. You want to talk to the person live in front of them 4 times a year, and then having as many email and text message communications as well on top of that. So I can circle back to that around when we get further into what I wanted to talk about today as well. How do you balance not getting burnt out? I've door knocked a couple times and they have always been great, but every single time they take so much energy. Yeah. I totally get that. Burnout is 100% real. I always say that if you're pushing yourself to knock too many doors all at once, you're never going to do it consistently. So if you can knock for a certain period of time, that will actually make it so you can do it on a daily basis, or however many times you want to do it on a weekly basis. That's better than doing it for 10 hours 2 times a week and only doing that for 2 weeks. Honestly, a lot of the times it's a very mental game. A lot of people think, I'm going to go knock doors and I hate knocking doors, this sucks, and then they actually knock that first door and it's not that bad. It's actually enjoyable, it gets pretty fun, and it's really not that horrible of an experience. And so I would say that it's exhausting. It really is. Knocking doors is really, really hard, but just doing what you're comfortable with, doing what you can handle, and being consistent with it is really what's going to take you to that next level. Consistency by far is most important. Follow-up seems to be almost as important as the door knocking part. How do you keep someone 1 to 2 years out engaged? Yes, follow-up is by far the most important aspect of door knocking. I always say if you are not getting contact information, and if you are not knocking doors, or if you're not sending out emails to actually stay in touch with people, you are going to have less success. Follow-up is honestly the key in knocking doors and having an evergreen business where you're not going to have to knock doors forever. And so I would say pull a Ricky Carruth method, send out a weekly email to your database where you're talking about homes you have for sale, homes your brokerage has for sale, market updates, all of the things like that, and send it out weekly, to hold client events, re-knock the door 4 times a year. And if you want, I have a full hour-long YouTube video on my follow-up system that you can check out that pretty much breaks down every single aspect of that. So, okay, let's see here. Do you door knock the same street twice to knock on the doors that didn't answer? My contacts go way down when I go back to the same neighborhood. So that's kind of what I come back to. I try to knock every single neighborhood that I work 4 times a year. And so however many neighborhoods I can fit in a 3-month period, those are my farms. And so if I am going to knock a specific neighborhood, I'll knock every single door 3 times. So the first time around, I'll knock, mark down the ones that don't answer, come back around, hit the ones that didn't answer once more, hit the ones that didn't answer another time, to total 3 knocks. After that, I move on to the next neighborhood. After I have done that for 3 months, I then start back again and hit the first neighborhood and talk to every single person again. I knock every single door, regardless if I've talked to them or not have talked to them. And I just rinse and repeat 4 times a year. That is my method where I don't want to waste my time. If people are not answering, I just move on, but I at least try to knock the door 3 times in total. Do you door knock the same street twice or knock on the doors that didn't answer? Oh, sorry, that's the same question. Yeah, I do, like I just said. Okay, Talon was referring to assistant and employees. So honestly, the most important person that you will ever find in your business is a transaction coordinator. If you have a transaction coordinator that does majority of your stuff for you, your life will get so much easier. Once you have enough business that you, honestly, even if you're only closing 1 or 2 deals every couple of months or whatever, transaction coordinator for me is totally worth it. even in the beginning, if you're paying them a couple $100 to do the deal for you, it's worth having because they can do paperwork, they can communicate with clients, they can submit all documents, get documents for signatures. It's just really worth having a transaction coordinator from an employee standpoint. And if you're getting to the point where you are so busy that your prospecting efforts goes down, or you're showing too many homes, having too many appointments, and you're not prospecting anymore, that's when it's time to get a showing assistant or buyer's agent, where you can have them actually go show homes for you. I got to that point, and that's when my business really started to take off, is I was able to hire showing assistants that showed homes for me. I was able to work hardly any on a weekly basis and have other agents show homes for me, and I was still closing the exact same amount of business. So transaction coordinator and a showing assistant. I personally went on majority of my listing appointments just because I have a certain style and way I do that and want to create that connection. I also will say, if it's a new buyer, I always go on the first 1 or 2 showings and then I outsource it. And a way to do that is by just communicating with the client and saying, I just want to give you top-notch service. I'm a super busy real estate agent, and with time constraints of multiple different clients, I want to make sure I can get you into any home that you want to see. And that's why I use a showing assistant. So it may not always be me showing the home, but I'm always going to get you into a home that you want to see. And I hope that's okay with you. Every single time the client is going to say, yeah, 100%, that's awesome. And that way you set expectations right up front that you may be outsourcing that to somebody else and still providing them top-notch service. So hopefully that answers your question regarding kind of systems, assistants, and employees. In your videos, you say to get email address. Do you ask for phone numbers too, or is that less important? Email address is 100% more important than phone number, but I do ask for both. Easiest way to do that is just nonchalantly throw it out there. What's the best email and phone number for you? While pretty much looking down at your phone or whatever, you're already going to type it in. Just being straight up, blunt, and forward about that to get that information as quick as possible and without other people feeling awkward about it. But yeah, email is far more important because that's what you're going to be sending out weekly updates on, or monthly, or how you're going to continue to stay in touch with those people. Do you use the same opener script when you re-knock the neighborhood? No. Very great question. The first knock is a pitch for getting business, where it's more prospecting heavy. You're trying to procure business. The second time around is a follow-up, where you're saying, hey, I was just in the neighborhood talking to XYZ neighbor. I just wanted to stop by, see how you guys were doing, and if you needed anything. That follow-up is relationship building, where you are just coming by again, checking in on them, and having a conversation, being a resource and a friend. Then after that, you want to follow up with a CMA report, some type of value add, and invite to a client event. This is on the third time knocking around. And then the fourth time later in the year is when you want to re-pitch them, have a more blunt and honest conversation, because hopefully by then you've talked to them a couple of times, you've communicated with them, and you can say, hey, it's been about a year since we first talked. Have you considered selling or moving anytime soon, based on our previous conversation? So those conversations differ and change at pretty much every single time you communicate or have that conversation with somebody. So hopefully that helps as well. Okay. Feel free to throw more questions in as we go. But there's a couple things I want to talk about today. And Jakeem, I'll answer your question in just a second, or respond to your comment. First thing I want to talk about is, when it comes to door knocking and prospecting, there is a ton of controversy around it. I posted in a Facebook group the other day that if people have thought about door knocking, or if they think door knocking is still the best prospecting method, and there are so many agents that weren't even willing to try or do it, which I understand. Door knocking is not easy. It's a very challenging form of prospecting. And in my personal opinion, if you pair door knocking with social media and follow-up, you will be a top producing agent in your brokerage within 12 months. It's pretty much inevitable if you do it right, because of the process around it. Social media and other forms of prospecting are more of a long-term game, building your brand, building your reputation, and building your clientele. And if you supercharge that with door knocking and a really solid follow-up system, you should be closing a massive amount of business on a monthly basis. And so I wanted to break down what that looks like, what that system looks like, of how to put door knocking, social media, and follow-up all together to build an awesome system of success for your real estate career. So I'll answer these 2 more questions, then we'll go into that. In a place like Boulder, people can get a bit pushed out of their neighborhood, specifically my neighborhood. Many say, where am I going to go? What is a non-pushy way to tell them they have options, but if they are looking for a similar product, they would have to move to a different city? People want to cash out, but they're afraid they won't find anything as good as Boulder. Fair, because Boulder's awesome. I'm biased because I like Boulder as well. But a lot of the times it is based on the numbers and people not understanding them. So, for example, when you get the question of where am I going to go? It's way too expensive to actually make a move. I can't really go anywhere, blah. A lot of the times they're not properly running the numbers or understanding the numbers. So if somebody has a ton of equity, but also has a car payment, also has credit card payments, student loans, whatever it may be, a lot of the times with equity you can restructure their debt, where on a monthly basis they're not paying anything more, but they can afford a newer, nicer home with that higher price point in the same area, so they don't have to move elsewhere. So that's something to think about. I have multiple videos on that as well. I actually just posted one 20 minutes ago. It automatically scheduled, posted for me, so you should check that out after this video. But I pretty much go into looking at purchase price, interest rate, how to restructure that to make it make sense for somebody that is looking for that higher price point. If they don't have debt that you can restructure and they just can't afford anything more, a lot of the times you have to determine their needs and wants. And so by pretty much asking what's most important to you, is it location or type of home? By asking those type of questions, you're going to understand their situation better, where it's like, yeah, location's more important to us, then it truly may not make sense for them to move. And that's something you have to wrap your head around. Door knocking is that it's not always going to make 100% sense for people to move, and that's why you want to get contact information and follow up for when they have to move or are ready to move. But with that being said, by asking that question of, hey, what's most important to you, and they say, well, we definitely are going to need more space, you can then say, okay, well, what if we could find you a comparable neighborhood or city in the outskirts of Boulder that would make more sense financially and be a perfect fit, and then see if that's something that would work for them. But good question. That's a challenging objection to overcome, but a lot of the time it comes down to them actually understanding what the numbers look like and also what is most important to them. How do you keep with all the information specifically? How do you, which door answered, their name, contact info, etc., in way for you to keep it for the follow-up? Yeah, so I built out a spreadsheet, actually. It's a super simple Google spreadsheet. It is contact information, name, phone number, email, notes, /result, and then there's multiple different tabs for the first, second, third, fourth knock of the result, the conversation, and such. And so really easy to create. I'm also happy to share it, send it to you if that's something you're interested in. So feel free to reach out if you want my door knocking tracker that I can provide to you. So with door knocking, there's a specific system that we've covered already, but I want to go over that really quick that you can combine with social media and follow up. What I want any agent that is newer or getting started in real estate, getting started in door knocking to do is be consistent. I talked about this already, but if you're going to knock doors, all you have to do is be consistent. If you're going to knock doors for an hour a day, do it. If you're going to knock doors for 4 hours a day, do it. It's incredible, the power and consistency of door knocking. And so my recommendation is to find a system or a method that works for you, where you're going to do it for 6 months. Commit to 6 months of prospecting door to door, and your business will change forever. If that is an hour a day, great. If it's 4 hours a day, great. Just do it. And so with your door knocking, if you're knocking 2 hours a day, I want you to, like I said, pick your first neighborhood. And the way you're going to pick that neighborhood is by looking at turnover. So seeing if homes are selling frequently in that neighborhood, if there's a lot of homes under contract for sale or sold. So if there's high levels of that type of activity in a specific neighborhood, that's what you want to look for. That's the type of neighborhood that you want to jump into. Once you have knocked that entire neighborhood, have either spoken to somebody or have knocked a unanswered door 3 times, move on to your next neighborhood. Once it has been 3 months, that's when you start over. So you're jumping to new neighborhood after new neighborhood for 3 months. And once you've hit 3 months, you go back to the very first neighborhood that you talked to. From there, you rinse and repeat this process, and you have now established your farm. Those neighborhoods that you've been able to do within 3 months is your farm that you're going to focus on for the rest of your real estate career. You should be more than fed, quote unquote, from that amount of neighborhoods and doors in that 3-month period. You should be able to close enough business where you'll never have to worry about where your next deal is going to come from ever again. So the rest of the year, like I said, second time you knock, it's a follow-up. It's just, hey, I was in the neighborhood. How are you? Is there anything I can do for you? It was great talking to you a couple months ago. Second time or third time around, bring a CMA for the neighborhood, bring a client event invite, bring a market update, just bring a just sold, whatever it may be, just bring that by. And then the fourth time around is another knock where you're saying, hey, we've known each other for about a year now. I just wanted to follow up. You said you were wanting to wait a year and a half, 2 years. Have you thought more about it? Here's an update on the market. And pretty much resell them or re-knock their door with questions and pretty much a normal pitch like you would have the first time around. So with that structure and that method of door knocking, you should be having enough leads where you're drowning. Honestly, if you do that properly, you're not going to need anything else. But if you do use social media and a follow-up system, you're just going to supercharge your business. And this is when a transaction coordinator, showing assistant, and all that stuff comes into play for you to be able to handle the amount of business that you're going to have. But with using door knocking, you want to leverage your success from door knocking because you're going to see success quicker than other prospecting methods on your social media. And what I mean by this is by taking your own listings, your own buyers that you're showing homes, and posting this type of content to your social media where you're saying just listed, just sold, just under contract. All of that type of stuff is the post that I would be posting on social media. On top of that, on a weekly, almost even daily basis, I would be posting featured properties that your followers would be interested in. So for me, my demographic was newly married people, just because that's my age group. Those are my friends. Everybody's getting married. Everybody's having kids. And so I would be posting starter homes on my stories. I would say, hey, featured property, this one's a killer deal. Reach out to me if you want to look into this one. And then the next day I would be posting, hey, just listed. Even if it's not even my own listing, it was my broker's listing or listing in my brokerage. And so your social media starts to blow up with people being like, holy cow, Cameron's doing so much business or Lauren's doing so much business. And even if it's partially yours, partially your brokerages, and then partially just featured properties that you find on the MLS, your business will start to explode. And so by doing that, by knocking consistently, posting on social media consistently, and then having a follow-up system, you're never going to have to worry about another deal. So I'll pause there, answer some more questions, then we'll go into the follow-up system of how I would wrap it all together. Where was I? Let's see. How do you keep with all the information? I talked on that one. I watched the follow-up video you did, but I forgot. Do you only follow up with people that have thought about selling? No, I follow up with every single person that I ever talk to, that I ever get their email address. If they're like, no, we're not planning on selling anytime soon, but I still get their email address, I'm following up with them. If I get their email address, which you should be trying to get anyone and everyone's email address, you're following up with them and putting them into your follow-up system. You don't want to ever knock a door and not try to get an email, because then it's more of a waste of time on your end, because you're going to have to re-knock that door to nurture that relationship. If you get that email first and foremost, you're never going to have to knock that door again because you can just follow up with that person. But by re-knocking that door, you're just solidifying yourself as the expert in the neighborhood. If this might help, I print out maps of each neighborhood so I can quickly take notes on each door I knock and update into a spreadsheet afterwards. That's another fantastic way. I know there's lots of apps out there that other door-to-door industries use that you can actually pin each home, and a form pops up that you can populate with all the information as well. That's something you can totally use. I just personally never cared enough to use an app like that, just because my spreadsheet I was able to export the data, upload it into my CRM, and that's pretty much what I did. I would go home, update the data into my CRM, put them into my follow-up system, and off to the races. So let's see. So speaking of that, my follow-up system, let's jump into that now. My follow-up system is super simple, and it's really not that complicated. It is a weekly email, and within those weekly emails or monthly emails, it doesn't matter how many times you want to reach out to people. It's just your personal preference. You're doing the same exact thing that you're pretty much doing on social media, but in a very nonchalant, non-done-up, make-upped-up way. I pretty much send very generic emails where I pretty much just start typing. I don't have some fancy email software like Constant Contact or anything like that. I just BCC all of my contacts. I have to send out multiple emails because you can only BCC like 500 people or something like that. So I send out multiple blast emails that are very generic with a written response of, hey, this is what's going on this month. Here are some featured properties. Here are some just listed properties. Market data, anything pertinent to a homeowner in that neighborhood, whatever it may be, and I send those out consistently. From there, it is all about having different aspects in your business that you can do as well. So I fully recommend having client events that you can then invite your database to. I've had tons of times where people have come from my database that I have then converted from them just seeing me in person by coming to an event. And if it's a brokerage sponsored event, if it's you yourself doing marketing and holding your own event, you can have very, very inexpensive events that are still an absolute blast for people to come out to, and build your brand by doing that. So very simple explanation of my follow-up system. If you want to rewatch the entire follow-up training I have, go for it. That's on my YouTube channel, and you can dive into that. Personally develop, send, make the emails, or do you have an assistant to help? I personally have done the emails. If you have an assistant or want to hire out an assistant, do it. I should have, and that's probably something I should still do, but I think I have the perfectionist personality, and so I always like to type it out myself so I can have control over what it says and the feel of the email. But I think there's power in outsourcing that for sure. I think that is definitely an outsourceable task, and something that if you have an assistant or are going to hire an assistant, that is for sure absolutely something that you should outsource and send out to somebody else to do. So, okay. So for the last little bit of this call, I want to go over some different scenarios that you may be experiencing in your current business with the current market, and how to handle those objections, how to ask the right questions to convert those people, whether it's from a door knocking, a listing appointment, buyer's consultation. And so take some time to leave some scenarios or objections that you're getting in the comments, and I'm going to go over some of those so that you can take this, go call your prospect, and close them with what I'm about to tell you, or just go knock doors and have more success from what we're about to go over. So what objections are you handling in your market? And let's jump into it. I'll wait a second for some responses. Just while you guys are typing and sending those in, I'll give you an example of one that I just recently ran over, or had. I just had a listing appointment, and it's funny. So about 4 months ago had a listing appointment, and I personally told the seller, hey, right now there's no time for us, or there's an opportunity for us to sell right now. It just doesn't make sense financially. We're just not ready, and we don't want to move. And I asked them questions about, hey, if we restructured it this way, and it was emotional. So the reason why I tell you it's emotional is because sometimes you can say all of the right things, you can give them all of the right data, all of the right information, and they're still not going to sell. They're still just going to say, nope, I'm not ready. And the response I gave them after going through the numbers and after going through the scenarios with them was actually, I don't think it's right for you to sell either right now. Obviously, this hurts me. This is turning business away and not getting business, but it was the best decision I made because I personally knew that, yes, right now isn't the best time for them to sell. It didn't make sense with their current situation and what they were going to buy. The math just didn't line up, and I was just being honest and truthful and just truly trying to represent them. Fast forward to about 2 weeks ago, I got a call from them, and pretty much they said, hey, we want to go see this house. And I said, okay, like, sounds good. I'm obviously not going to fight you on that. Went and saw the house, put them under contract, and I'm listing their house today. So the moral of this story is, even if you can't convert people immediately with their objection and it just doesn't make sense, being honest, truthful, and just trying to help them will eventually convert them into a client in the future. And so don't give up on people that are just like, no, I'm not ready. Follow up with them, care about them, and truly just be honest with them, because that's what's gonna earn you their business. Let's dive into some of these. I have no money. Having no money is a problem. Obviously, if they have zero money, that is a problem. But there is two solutions to this. How much money they think it costs to buy a home. So a lot of the time people will just say, oh, I have no money. There's no way I could buy a house. In reality, they could, where they think they need 20%, 5%, 10%, whatever. They think they need way more than it actually costs to get into a house. Obviously, some people can get into a home with 0% down. So just by asking those questions of like, okay, like, I understand it's super expensive right now. How much money do you think you need to get into a home? From there, you can further the conversation to actually have a more beneficial, kind of worthwhile conversation. The second thing I'll talk about is, with somebody like this, is, do you have somebody that could co-sign with you? A lot of the times with a co-signer, people can afford or get into a home that they normally wouldn't be able to, and all they need to know is just that it's possible. If they have a parent, guardian, friend, whatever it may be, that is willing to co-sign on with them, or be a co-borrower where they go buy a house with somebody, the opportunity now is open to them, because they can afford more. They don't have to put as much down personally themselves, and they can just buy something with somebody else. And so those are some of the scenarios that I would walk these type of people through when they say they have no money, is just by saying, okay, have you thought about getting a co-signer? Is there anybody that you could purchase a home with? How much money do you think you need to put down on the home? Those type of questions. I'm getting people to the point where they see or agree it's a better time to move now than later. I'll send them my website, tell them to send me homes, but they're not. What do I do? If you are having the conversation where people agree, you're having honestly productive conversations, and then they ghost you, a lot of the times they are either busy or we're not that interested, and that's when I would go re-knock their door. So that's why, if you knock their door first and you have a conversation like this, and then you're re-knocking the neighborhood for the next week or two by re-knocking the people that didn't answer, or re-knocking it for the first time, whatever it may be, the people that you have productive conversations with that pretty much gave you signs of, let's go look at homes, or let's go send homes, those people I knock more consistently. I don't wait 3 months to re-knock their door again. I'll knock their door a week later or 2 weeks later, or whatever it may be, and just follow up and say, hey, I haven't seen any homes from you. I was just meeting with your neighbor or chatting with your neighbor, wanted to see if you were able to find any homes. I actually found a couple that fit your criteria that we were talking about the other day, and you can show them those. That's personally what I would do, is I would go back in person, follow up with them, and bring value. So based on your first conversation, say, hey, these are some homes that you kind of talked about may fit your criteria. Wanted to show them to you. Have you seen any that you'd be interested in? Waiting for rates to go down to both buy and sell. They know it will be more competitive. They might get a higher price point when rates go down, even if it will be the same situation when they buy. Yep. The YouTube video I just posted at 10, or literally 40 minutes ago, is this exact scenario. I broke down the numbers of how this works. So I'll break it down here again. If they are selling a $400,000 house and they think they should get $420,000 out of the home with it being more competitive and rates coming down, this is what you want them to think about. If rates come down comparatively, their payment over a 12-month period, the amount of money they would save if they want to wait a year or 2 years or whatever, is on a $400,000 house from a 6.5 or something to a 4% interest rate was like $7,000 difference. They'd be paying $7,000 more with that higher interest rate. And so if they were hoping to get 420 and they sold for 400, that's $20,000. If they were hoping to get a lower interest rate, that's $7,000. Now, if you could help them purchase a home right now and get them $10,000 under asking price and $7,000 in closing costs, now that's $17,000 you're potentially saving them on the purchase. Now, the other thing that comes on top of this is if they wait and get that 420 and that lower interest rate, so they're potentially $27,000 above, would they have to go over asking price, over appraised value, or pay over when they go purchase their next home? And this is all based on the risk of rates not even going low enough for them to be saving money. And the other thing they miss out on is the appreciation. So for example, if rates come down and home prices shoot up again, they could have bought that same exact house at say $450, but then they went and sold theirs for $420, and now the home they're trying to buy has gone up by $30,000, and so it just costed them $30,000 plus what they're having to overbid on the home to get the home under contract, which in the long term, 90% of the time is going to cost them more money to wait. Obviously, it's a gamble, it's a risk. It could save them money by waiting, it could make them more money by waiting, but majority of the time the math comes out to where they're going to be spending more if they wait for rates to come down and then have to go buy and sell and all that stuff. So that was a very jumbled explanation of that, but hopefully that answers your question. They would sell, but they have nowhere to go. In our market, there are a crazy amount of offers on houses, sometimes over 15. My opening line is we have buyers looking in the neighborhood. Absolutely. Sorry, Lauren, what market were you in? Wisconsin. Okay, cool. So we just had this market here in Utah about a year and a half ago where we were getting 20 offers plus on every single house. It was going under contract within 2 days. And it's actually super awesome that your market is still this strong. That just shows that the economy is pumping. And it's going to get even worse. But this market is insane for you to capitalize on because of your opening line you just said. By saying, hey, we have buyers looking in the neighborhood, it's a very attractive comment for a seller where it's like, hey, we have somebody looking for a home similar to yours. Have you ever considered selling your house? And a lot of people are going to say, yeah, we've thought about it. And you can say, yeah, the market's insane right now. You can get a ton of money for your house. Then what I like to say is, hey, we don't know where we would go. You can say, well, as a door knocking real estate agent, I actually hunt for homes for my clients. And so if there's a specific home style you want, I would knock doors on those type of homes just like I'm doing right now for your home. So if you would want to make a move, I would love to run the numbers for you, see if it would make sense, and then go out and try to find the perfect home for you, because I'd be able to connect you with the seller and make it a really easy, uncompetitive transaction for you. A lot of the times it doesn't line up this way, but if you can attract a client to the point where they run the numbers with you, they understand that moving sooner and now makes more sense, that they want to move, they're ready to move, and it actually works out for them, you can find them a home. It's just going to take longer. They're going to lose offers, they're going to submit offers, but eventually the right home with the right offer, they're going to go under contract and it's going to work out. It's just going to be a little bit more stressful and strenuous process. But that's a really, really great way to earn business in a competitive market like you're currently experiencing. So I would just knock. Honestly, if you're in a market like that, knock your guts out, because you're going to be able to get way more business than you ever thought possible. So Okay, let's see. Any other questions or comments? I'd like to finish out the rest of the time we have for the next 10, 15 minutes of any other questions that you have. Um, and so if you have questions, want answers from me, throw them in the comments. I'll finish up this live call with answering your questions, and then we will finish up for today. So I'm doing open house this weekend. I was going to door knock this Friday evening. However, the house went under contract yesterday, and it was a coming soon. What should I say this Friday? So I'm a little more clarification. The home that you were doing the open house on went under contract, and if that home is now under contract, are you still going to do the open house? Let me know. Nicole, let me clarify that for me. Because if the home is under contract, okay, yeah. So if the home is under contract that you were going to do the open house for, way I would, well, that's actually crazy that it was coming soon and it's already under contract. The way I would knock doors is, hey, I was actually going to be holding an open house this weekend for the home down the street, but crazy enough, it already went under contract, and there's just so much activity currently that we have more clients looking for homes in this neighborhood. Have you guys ever considered selling your house? And so if you knock like that, that's just procuring more business, showing that the market's really active and homes in that neighborhood are selling really quickly. And if you still want to do the open house, great. You totally can. Hold the open house, do it. But for me, I don't love the idea of holding an open house when I'm just going to have to tell people, hey, actually, it already went under contract, or by not telling them that. It's just my personal preference. I think you can still capitalize on business by knocking the entire neighborhood and even holding the open house. So it's totally up to you. I don't think it's a waste of time at all, because I think if people come through and you're able to pick up on them, and especially if it's that attractive and busy of a home, then that's a great use of your time. So, but I would definitely knock the neighborhood if homes are going under contract that fast in that neighborhood. I would for sure be saying, hey, this home, before you even hit the market, went under contract. There's still a ton of buyers actively looking for homes like yours. Have you guys ever considered selling your house? And from there, you should have phenomenal conversations with the rest of the homeowners in that neighborhood. Okay, any other questions for anybody today? I'll wait a second, throw them in there. You're welcome, Nicole. Hopefully that was helpful. Yeah, throw any other questions you have in there for today, and then we'll wrap it up. Hopefully this has been valuable. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. I hope to do this in the future with almost every single aspect of real estate. I want to dive into buyers consultations, listing appointments, setting up your business as a new agent, pretty much anything that real estate school should have taught you but didn't. That is my mission and goal in life right now, is to pretty much provide as much value and teach agents what they need to know so they can actually succeed and have success in their career. So if this is something that has helped you, share it with your friends that are real estate agents, share it with the people on your team and your brokerage. Like I said, this is going to be free forever for anyone that wants to join this Facebook page, because obviously it's for agents just to learn daily training and useful information. So I'll give it a little bit more. Anybody else have any more questions before we finish up today? Throw them in the chat, and then we'll finish up today's call.